Welcome back. I'm Anant Rangaswamy, and I'm in conversation with Sir Martin Sorrell, the CEO of WPP, who is sitting in his London headquarters. As we come to the end of the year, Sir Martin, what will be your single biggest focus area for 2014?
Well, strategically, we have to continue on our four-legged, four-pronged strategy. New markets, new media, data investment management, and last but not least, horizontality. I mean, it's just interesting that of our $18 billion of revenue, 3/4 are in media planning and buying, what we call media investment management, digital, and data investment management. Digital business about $6 billion, data investment management about $4 billion, media about $4 billion. So we're talking about 14 or so out of the 18 billion coming from those three areas, which is what areas that Don Draper of Mad Men fame probably wouldn't recognize. So the business has changed. It will continue to change. In India, you see the growth of online. You see the growth of the 5 areas I mentioned, display and video and search in the classic form and social and mobile. These are all growing very fast, even in stagnant markets in the West or markets that are declining, like Spain. You see growth in interactive and internet and digital penetration. So it's a question of finding that. Having said that, Anant, we will return to that issue that you raised at the beginning of all this, which is this search for effectiveness and efficiency. And I will be focused on that too, is how can we more effectively work with our clients in a constructive way to make sure that what we do is not only the best work, but is as efficient as possible. So I think we have to acknowledge that this is something that our clients are worried about and are focused on, and work with them in a relationship basis, not on a transactional basis, but in a relationship basis to make their businesses, their brands, their corporations more successful.
You've said new media is one of the areas of focus. You've been named one of the 60 most influential CEOs on social media. But when I read that article, I discover you aren't even on Twitter. So why aren't you on Twitter?
Well, there's a limit to what I can do. Now, Twitter is, in my view, an extremely effective public relations medium. In fact, I was talking to the press secretary of one of, doesn't matter who, one of the leading prime ministers / presidents. And what he said to me was quite really interesting. If they want to change the agenda or develop the agenda, the quickest and most effective way of doing it from a public relations point of view is Twitter. But I'm not interested in, or as much interested in short form opportunities. I have chosen with Chris Wade here in London to focus on LinkedIn, and I've written, I think it's now about 3 or 4 LinkedIn influencer pieces. I think that's the last one on China and technology developments in China, I think, got a considerable amount of likes and hits. And I think what we're seeing is an opportunity to develop that sort of approach through the LinkedIn medium. That doesn't mean that I'm negative on Twitter. I'm highly positive on it. We have a really outstanding agreement with them through Kantar to use their data to show that consumers engage with live television in even more effective ways using social media. But there's a limit to what I can do. That position may change over time, and I may decide short form, but I prefer a longer form, as you know from this interview. I prefer a longer form way of communicating.
And while we're talking social media, how important do you think it is for CEOs to be on social media? What is the upside? What is the downside?
Well, I think it's very important. I mean, I see little or no downside. I mean, the downsides are that you have to, continuously nourish those social media, those social feeds. They are another set of communities to manage, so it means more pressure on time and resources. But you can't escape it. You have to be a part of it because everything now is 24/7. Everything is all trite stuff. It moves at the speed of light. But having said all that, what we have to do is to utilize all these new media, whether it be Google or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest or Snapchat, whatever it happens to be, to utilize these in a more effective way for our clients and build that relationship that I referred to earlier. So I think you have to get with it, because if you don't, you will fall behind.
Personally, do you feel that you have benefited from being on social media, especially, say, the time you've spent on LinkedIn?
Yes, I think so. We get a lot of feedback to ideas that we think are important. We get a lot of crowdsourced thinking, innovation, response, and we get some people who violently disagree, verbally, violently disagree with what we say. But I think, no, it stimulates a wonderful debate. And if you think that education has been tended to be concentrated, particularly in the developed markets and indeed the fast-growing markets, amongst elites, this opens up such fantastic human potential. The growth of the net. I mean, I was very struck by Nicholas Negroponte's experiment with young, I think, African children, where they literally left iPads in pizza boxes with 7 or 8 year olds for a few weeks, and came back and found that they were, with no manuals, guide manuals, were hacking into European sites within a small period of time. The point of the story is intelligence is probably distributed, not probably, definitely distributed on a normal bell curve, and that historically vast tracts of populations have been excluded, and the web and the internet opens this up. You see this with the MOOCs that you see on university courses now. You see it with that artificial intelligence course at Udacity at Stanford, where they projected 30,000 people would go online for the course at Stanford, and 130,000, I think, came online. And the top 411 who graduated or thereabouts were people who were doing the course online rather than at Stanford. So we're seeing revolutionary changes in the way people are accessed and the way they think and can communicate, and this is all to the good.
And the last question, Sir Martin, as we approach the holidays, can you recommend a reading list for professionals in media, advertising and communications?
Well, Anand, I've taken the opportunity of writing down, actually, so I get it right. I've grouped them in accordance with our strategy. So, these are the things I think that are sort of interesting if you're thinking about what we're trying to do at WPP, and which is really a reflection of what our clients are doing. So I think it's important from a client point of view. So there's one book by a man called Ian Morris called Why the West Rules for Now, The Patterns of History and What They Reveal About the Future. That's interesting because it establishes these patterns. So if you believe that the last 200 years have been a blip in history for China and India, as I do believe they have been, and that we'll go back to the BRICS and Next 11 representing 40%, 50% of worldwide GNP, then I think this is a book that will help you on that. And the second one is by Jim O'Neill, who is certainly the father, or one of the fathers, we would claim to be a father, of the BRICS and Next 11 theories. Well, not theories, because it's actually in practice. So Brick Road to Growth by Jim O'Neill. In new media, The Everything Store by Jeff Bezos, which is an exceptional book. It's on the age of Amazon. It's by a man called Brad Stone. So it's The Everything Store by Jeff Bezos, The Age of Amazon by Brad Stone. In data investment management, difficult to find sort of good recent books, but Big Data, a revolution that will transform how we live, work and think, by Victor Mayer-Schonberger and Kenneth Kukia. And that examines the importance of data and how data is going to become more important. The last area is horizontality, and that's a difficult one. You could find, I think, some psychological books, but I thought what was quite interesting, and maybe a little bit of a lighter read, it's not about cricket. We shouldn't mention cricket after the events of what's been happening down under, I guess, but certainly it's painful getting up early in the morning here and seeing the results of Oz destruction. But the last one's about football. It's my autobiography by Alex Ferguson. And I was asked by Bloomberg recently for a book selection, and I gave that. Not because I think it's a great work of literature, but because I think it has some interesting lessons for how we manage our own business. How you manage highly creative, highly successful, talented people, how you build a brand, how you build a company. Manchester United is one of the world's most powerful brands, and how you do it actually geographically, because I think the biggest fan base that Manchester United have is, would you believe, in China. Those would be my selections. Why the West Rules for Now by Ian Morris, Brick Road to Growth by Jim O'Neill, New Markets, New Media, The Everything Store on Jeff Bezos, The Age of Amazon by Brad Stone, Data Investment Management, Big Data Revolution that will transform how we live, work and think by Victor Mayer-Schoenberger and Kenneth Kuke, and last but not least my autobiography by Alex Ferguson to demonstrate some of the things that we should be thinking about as we leverage talent within the organization.
Thank you, Sir Martin, for sparing the time. With that, it's a wrap for today. You can catch the show on YouTube and other CNBC TV 18 social media. Thank you for watching.